I'm so excited about this energy. The energy right now is taking you off the beaten track, exposing you to completely different energies. This is a way to get away from what's familiar, to try different things, and step into your independence. There's a strong message here that you're meant to test new ground. Even if it doesn't work out in 2 years' time, there's a continuation of this transit that will give you another chance. And in fact, the things that you try in 2026 will lead you directly into 2028 so that you do it even better next time. So don't be shy. Stick up for yourself. Turn your back on the past. Tie up loose ends and be excited. So on July 3rd at 11:30 p.m. Pacific time, we are going to see Uranus and Mars join together in Gemini at 3 degrees of Gemini. This is a part of a planetary cycle. A planetary cycle is a relationship between two or more planets. There's a very predictable pattern of interaction when these planets come together and move apart. We start with a conjunction, then a sextile, then a square, a trine, an opposition, a trine, a square, a sextile, and then another conjunction. This can be the new moon, and this can be the full moon. The opposition is the full moon. The conjunction that we are experiencing now is like a new moon, so another new beginning in the sign of Gemini. Last time Uranus and Mars joined together, they joined together in Taurus. So Uranus was in Taurus and they joined together. I think it was in the 20th degree, something like that. I predicted that scientists would locate the missing big planet. It's a planet that is, I think, 120 AU. So that's 120 times further from the sun than the Earth within the next cycle. And last year in 2025, while we were still in this cycle, somewhere around the opposition phase, there was a paper that was published that said they had found likely this missing planet, the 9th planet, about the size of Neptune in the area of space very near to where they had met. So this relationship between Uranus and Mars is deeply rooted in science, technology, moving forward with things. I call this transit the zenith of the wave, which is kind of like the peak of the wave. I also think that it's a genius transit, so we'll talk about all of that next. So maybe to take a look at what the conjunction means, we can look at what Uranus and Mars mean. So there can be a larger social alignment. So in other words, our personal alignment to larger social forces of expression and technology around us. So this means that under Uranus and Gemini, each of us become better attuned to progress, technology, science, and tech. This is supposed to be a lightning bolt. Under this transit, we might experience shocking breakthroughs. And one of the great things of this transit is that we find unconventional loopholes to things. So problems that we were not able to resolve, we resolve through just finding a different way around it. And under this transit, expect to experience radical clarity. Uranus in Gemini is a powerhouse, and I'm really excited to be able to live through it. Uranus rules Aquarius in the modern system, which is an air sign, so it likes to be in other air signs as well. Mars has a lot to do with personal action, speech. So the act of speaking is actually a Martian quality, passion, and is an instigator, including being assertive and a spark. Mars is a personal planet, so it governs our more personal experiences. Its orbit around the sun is 2 years, so all planetary cycles with it are around 24 months. So let's talk about Gemini with a little bit more detail. So the sign of Gemini, and this is relevant whether you have Gemini in your chart or not. Gemini has a lot to do with the nervous system, which is the mind and mental processing. A lot of its energy has to do with networking including communication systems, spread of information. It governs things like words, facts, and documents. Its energy is local, such as your community or your neighborhood. So Mars and Uranus are engaging in these types of energies through their respective agency or action. For Uranus, it has to do with technology, global systems. This is the sign for Uranus. And for Mars, that has to do with our action, right? So this is an alignment between the global systems, technology, and our personal action. They're working together in these types of qualities. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury has just turned retrograde in Cancer. So Mercury in Cancer, which is retrograde right now, rules over Gemini. This influences how Mars and Uranus are functioning in Gemini. That rules how Gemini is functioning. This brings Gemini energy, all that forward moving, to a state of some degree of reflection and refinement. During Mercury retrograde, and we're going to do a separate video about this, we're going to be thinking a lot about the home, whether it's a physical home or a memory of the past. Just before I started filming, I had memories of Poland, of Warsaw. That's where I'm from. Like very visceral memories of just being there. It also has to do with learned patterns and relationships. These are more family relationships, and they may have to do with your current family or memories of how you existed in a previous family situation. This type of energy is what Mercury retrograde is pushing us to do until July 23rd. That's when Mercury ends. Mercury retrograde ends. And so that's a huge influence on the conjunction of Mars and Uranus. That's how this cycle of the planetary cycle starts. There are things that need to be talked about before progress is made. So that's the quality of Mercury retrograde that I believe applies to this conjunction of Mars and Uranus. There's things that have to be revisited and refined in the realm of relationships, family, before you get the go-ahead to move forward with what Mars and Uranus are initiating. So let's go through the idea of what Mars and Uranus means more precisely, and specifically in Gemini. So this has a lot to do with new ideas. What I mean is this cycle from 2026 to 2028. Some of you may be feeling really drawn off the algorithm towards books, maybe art, but offline. The reason for this is even though the algorithm has a lot of different options in it, it's still a finite, curated list of things, whereas the outside world has much more flexibility, much more variance, right? So this transit kind of breaks the algorithm because it likes more variety than even what the algorithm can serve. And especially in the beginning stages of this transit, especially when Mars is still in Gemini, that's going to be a big thing, reaching beyond some curated list or some limitations. The internet may feel dull, dusty, while other things may be triggering for you really wonderful things like breakthroughs, mental alertness, awareness. You may have new connections with people who you never would have connections with otherwise. Amazing, strange conversations. And I mean strange, I mean amazing, like good. So you're reaching beyond what is normal with the Gemini conjunction. You may actually post weird things online. You know how the algorithm trains us to post in accordance with what it wants and what it needs, and we kind of conform ourselves to it. So many people will be posting just random things, and people are going to actually respond to these things really well. Everybody is attracted to difference and diversity in general. That's a really good word for that, for all of that. Some people may be surprised to find shocking disclosure of information, so things you never thought were going to be said, or really unexpected things may come up. This isn't so much secrets, but more very oddball sort of pieces of information. you'll probably learn a lot. And this is just one of several different planetary cycles that we'll have between Mars and Uranus in Gemini. In fact, the next one, I'll tell you about it later, is going to be probably more powerful. This is kind of your initiation. So now let's talk about bending the nodes. So this is when a transit is the midpoint between the south node and the north node, right in between them. So here it is in the chart. Here we have the north node in Pisces at 2 degrees, and here is the south node in Virgo at 2 degrees. And the midpoint is right here at 2 degrees, that's Sedna, but we're looking at Mars and Uranus right now. So they're right in the middle, right in between those two nodes. In order to understand bending the nodes in light of Uranus, we can consider this. Uranus passed the north node, so this is the sign for Uranus. I'm lazy, I'm not going to write it out, in 2022, okay? And Mars passed the north node in March of this year. So let me show you. So here's the north node, and so Uranus passed the north node when it was in Taurus, and Mars passed the north node this year when it was in Pisces. Okay, so that's when they entered this area of the chart right here. And now they're here. Okay, so this is the midpoint after they passed the north node. At this position, an event may happen that changes what is possible. There is a pause in progress here. By that I mean you may have noticed that since these two time frames, 2022 and March 2026 especially, you've been working really fast and the pace of your progress has drastically increased. So new things have been coming into your life and you have been just increasing the speed at which you're working through things, ideas, things like that. This point right here, the one that we're at right now, with Uranus and Mars in Gemini at 3 degrees. Now we're going to have a bit of a pause. We've reached the position at which that is full, saturated. So you can also think of it as accumulation. Since these two dates, so 2022 and March 2026, you may have been accumulating things, skills, just adapting to the world that is around us, integrating, adapting, moving forward. And now the process changes from accumulation, bringing in, to processing and refining. In other words, the pace is going to slow down. So however fast things have been picking up for you, now it's the slowing down process. It's almost like catching fish. You've caught the fish and now you're going to process the fish and refine them. Sorry to the vegans out there, but so the fact that Mars and Uranus are joining at this position, bending the nodes, takes on also this quality, this accumulative quality. A lot of novelty in your life that you have to process and then make it better and refine it, all that stuff. So I'd like to do a little channeling for this first part of our video, just to get familiar with what's being initiated here with this planetary cycle. Oh, that's such a good omen. Our first card is the Wheel of Fortune. That's Jupiter right there. Jupiter is at 0 degrees of Leo. Everybody knows this. It's just began. It's a very important transit in Leo for the next year. Then we have Strength and Energy. This is the card of Leo, speaking of which. And then we have Preparing. I have this in the reverse. I don't know how it ended up that way. Oh, it looks like half my deck is like that. I'm going to honor it, but I'm going to try to fix my deck to make sure that it doesn't have reversals. Strange enough, only 2 cards were reversed in there. So this is maybe a reminder that it's going to take some time maybe to prepare, or maybe some of the unexpected things that are coming up for you can't be prepared for. I believe it's the second one, but I did get the sense that maybe somebody's not preparing well enough. Maybe that's a message for someone. You know who you are. I'm not calling you out. Then we have Returning Energy, Remembering, number 39, and Danger, number 38. I don't like leaving on something like this. So let's pick another one. no, never. Okay, I'm going to work hard to get something less ominous, especially for a cycle like this. Deception. Oh no. Let's see the next card. There's something going on. Transformation. Okay, let's pick one more. It's pretty on. Oh, and look, our favorite card's been coming up. Generating birth. So something new is beginning. Danger. No, never. Deception. Transformation. That's very interesting. And in a little bit, we're going to do a tarot card reading. And I'm excited to tell you that I did manage to paint over some of the tarot cards. So we have different cards to use today. I had to cover some of my tarot cards up because of ad restrictions. So I'm happy to tell you that I can use a new tarot deck today. But let's do some channeling. So I did get the message that somebody's not preparing correctly. But I also got the message that something unexpected is coming, something you can't prepare for. I picked so many cards because I kept on getting funky cards, but someone is naysaying. Someone is stopping something from happening. Someone's stopping themselves from doing something because of the past. Memory of the past is holding them back. I think that there's fear that they have to work through. And I would never tell a person to go against their instincts. So if they're afraid of something, there may be a reason, but it's also important to work through your fears to figure out if they're justified. I believe that people's instincts should be honored, and I'm not telling you to go against your instinct, but I think that asking yourself if you're stopping yourself from going back to something because of a past memory. And I get the sense that there's distortion, so it's fuzzy. There may be reasons why it's not clear, maybe incredible stress in the past, unresolved feelings. There may be a lie involved. Somebody could be lying. All of these cards that were coming together, a pretty big lie. Lie has been coming up a lot, like misdirection, confusion. Someone could be better off than they pretend to be, and they're lying to manipulate a situation. So quietly or secretly, they're pushing forward with something, but they're hiding it from you. So they're using manipulation to make sure that you're not paying attention to something while they generate a new beginning for themselves. So here's the two cards, transformation and birth. And I feel like it's like slowing you down and that you shouldn't pay attention because they're not considering you at all. They're just manipulating the situation to make it better for themselves. And you have this same energy coming, right? The transformation and generating birth, but someone is showing up in your face as a distraction. I saw this reading online. One of the other readers had the exact same message, and I don't remember who right now from the top of my head, but this was the exact same message. Somebody's causing you a distraction. So if you're looking for data points and you feel this resonates, someone's creating confusion for you in your life. They may be giving off the impression that they're preparing for something with regard to you while they're secretly misdirecting in completely different direction. They're going in a different direction. It's a very, very selfish thing they're doing. It's selfish because it compromises your time. It compromises your well-being. And there may be a pattern of behavior like this. So this may register as like, oh yeah, I know this person did this before. So this is not new. The point is that you have transformation coming and you are generating birth. And you're supposed to not pay attention to that distraction. Very manipulative. I think, like, for my philosophy, getting in the way of other people's trajectories is like a very bad thing to do, in my opinion. Energetically speaking, ethically, I just think this is the kind of, snaky thing. I love this card, but it's a snaky thing to do. So I want to show you guys some moon connections. So the moon is in this area of the chart every single month, every 28 days in Gemini. And it's going to be here in this position on July 10th, 2026. And this is a wild connection. The moon governs the emotions and the mind. And in this position in Gemini, right now, because of the alignment of the nodes, it's something called out of bounds. This means that it's beyond its regular latitude at 27 degrees declination. This is a wild, very kind of off the beaten track kind of memory. That's a Freudian slip for someone. It's kind of a off the beaten track sort of experience of the emotions and the mind. Okay. So the moon goes beyond the root of the sun when it's in these extreme declinations. This causes our emotions and mind to be beyond what we usually experience. And this specific position only happens once every 9 years. If you've been watching my full moon and new moon videos, we've been covering this. So we have this extreme expression of the moon in Gemini right now. You can look back to the new moon in Gemini, I think it was in June or May, for a taste of what that energy was about. But the moon in this position is also bending the nodes, right? With Uranus and Mars. And this maxes out the energy of the conjunction. The conjunction of Uranus, that's the conjunction symbol, and Mars amplifies it. So even though the conjunction happens on July 3rd, the big activation is when the moon passes in Gemini on July 10th. I would say that this is the big activation, July 10th, 2026. This is when everything we've been talking about, the extremes, the free thinking, the zenith of the wave, all that imagery comes together. So something unique can happen at that time. Some people can go a little loopy. I would not recommend doing any mood affecting, mind affecting substances at that time. Just take it very easy. Stimulate yourself with good literature or whatever you like to do that stimulates your mind or your emotions. Connect with the good friend with whom you love to have deep conversations. That would be an amazing thing to do on July 10th, 2026. Have that deep chat. And if you want to figure out what this activation feels like, we've actually had 3 similar ones already. So on April 18th, this pattern sort of started. Uranus was still in Taurus, so it was a little bit different, but it was still bending the nodes. And on May 16th, we had another iteration of this. Specifically, the iteration I'm talking about is the moon passing in Gemini by Uranus. Then on June 13th, there was another instant of this. So this would have magnified once again this energy. But this last one on July 10th is the big one because Mars is with Uranus. And it's the last one. Womp womp. So it's the last one because by the time the moon comes back around to Gemini next time, the nodes are going to switch sides. So the north node is moving into Aquarius and the south node is moving into Leo. And that's going to break that pattern, that energy. So very, very wild. My best advice for you is to connect with someone who you know you have these great conversations with, mentally triggering or stimulating or emotionally stimulating, and have a chat with them in person, on the phone, go for a walk, something like that. Have that experience. So before we finish off with a tarot card reading, I wanted to kind of quickly go over some of the previous full moons and new moons in this 3 degrees of Gemini, where we have this conjunction. This may jot your memory, give you some idea of what to look forward to. So this was a full moon on November 25th, 1996. If you weren't alive then, or if you were very young, then maybe just look back to movies and media. Under this full moon, the sun was conjunct Pluto in Sagittarius, and Saturn was at 0 degrees Aries. And it was retrograde. This energy may have felt like a hard stop in a situation or a matter. So your life may have hit a dead end or a wall. This may have forced some heavy reevaluation in your life, depending on your age. But you can look back to that time and see if your life took a drastic turn, So for some of you, this may have been a phoenix moment of transformation. I just said to myself, stop being lazy and show them the chart. So this is the chart for that day. Sorry. It may have been a phoenix moment of transformation, and especially forced by external events. So something was pushing down on you that caused you this change. Another big feature of this full moon may have been that an old authority, someone who you really trusted a lot, there may have been a collapse of your relationship with them or your belief in their authority. So that's one that's kind of far, long time ago, but maybe it gives you some idea in terms of the flow of the energy. Then we have a full moon on November 25th. And this is in 2015, so not too long ago. Here it is in the chart, and this time we have a bit of a syzygy, a little bit off, but it's heading towards a syzygy with Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun opposing the moon in Gemini. This may have been a time when limits were tested, and money may have become a deciding factor in a situation you were involved in. And you had to make a certain decision because of money. There's the energy of the anchor here. So this is like the Lenormand, almost reaching a destination or near a completion of events. There's also the energy of the fortress. This is like the necessity to protect yourself, to build around yourself, something to keep you safe after a period of erosion. This was a time when you had to really put some effort to protect yourself, or you built up walls to make sure you were safe after a period of something difficult or that made you aware that that's what you needed to do. And then I have a couple new moons that happened. So we have a new moon, and this one's on May 24th, 2009. So this full moon was the last time we had a lunation, new moon, or full moon at 3 degrees of Gemini. I was very specific here, so there may be like 4 or 2 degree Gemini lunations. I was just looking at 3. So here in the chart is just after that new moon in Gemini on May 24th, 2009. Here's Mercury retrograde in Taurus. But this was the last time we had a new moon in at this degree. Again, being very specific. This was a sextile, which is a 60-degree angle to the position. Oh, Mercury in Taurus. I'm like, what did I write? Okay. Mercury was at 24 degrees of Taurus retrograde, and it's exactly a sextile to 2026 to its 25-degree position in Cancer today at the time of filming. Both of the Mercuries are retrograde. So that new moon may have covered some of these topics, going over money issues. Money came up a lot with these new moons and full moons as a theme, and we're still within the cycle of this new moon. I'll explain that more in a minute. This was a hidden seed moment. A new beginning had been planted into the ground. In certain cases, that new seed may still be waiting to sprout. So even in 2026, there may be still something carried over from that new moon. This had a lot to do with new journeying, or a major turning point. I got the sense that there could be a missing piece with regard to this new moon. So something that is missing or that was omitted, and maybe you're still looking to find it. So May 24th, 2009. Now we're going to look to the future now, back to the future, to May 24th, 2028. That's the next time we get a new moon at 3 degrees of Gemini right here. So it's just after midnight on the 24th. You can see Mars at 19 degrees of Taurus, approaching Uranus for its second iteration of a planetary cycle in Gemini. And the outer planets are now at all 8 degrees, creating a minor grand trine at 8 degrees. Uranus is at 9 degrees. Right now they are at 4 degrees, all of them, in 2026. With this new moon, when I was meditating on the message to do with this, I really felt that this was the second chance to something that you may have wanted to start in 2026, but it may not have worked out the first time around exactly how you wanted. So whatever you're starting now, you shouldn't be afraid. You should try doing it and see what you get. And know that in 2028, in May, you're going to get a second chance at doing exactly what you're trying to do now or some version of it. So in 2009 was the new moon, and in 2028 is the first time there's a new moon here. So that large cycle is finally repeating. So the energies of 2028 actually mirror the energies of 2009 a lot. Not necessarily the same people or situations, but some kind of echo with lessons or feelings coming up again in the same way. And when I was meditating, I also got the impression that if you missed out on something in 2026, you will know exactly what to do in 28. I get the energy here as laser beam, which is clear vision, and using the information that you learn in 2026 to build a radically different future in 2028. So you shouldn't back off 2026, no matter what's going on. I'm pointing to our channeled messages. So whatever's going on here, you should persevere, and you're going to get another chance at bat in 2028 to pursue the things you want. So you shouldn't back off at all. Okay, well, that ran long again. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm just going to play it by ear and give you guys the information that I think will be most helpful. I'm going to remind you guys, if you're enjoying my videos, it's great if you guys leave me a comment. Something simple will do just to let me know that you're enjoying this. I'm excited to share with you that I've painted over some of my cards so that I can use them in today's video. So we're going to do a little bit of a reading, a tarot card reading about this energy to see what we get. So first we got the Four of Cups. This is the Mary L Tarot. I have to be careful because they're super like mirror. And then we have the Two of Swords. And then we have the Hanged Man, the King of Swords, and the Seven of Swords. Let's do one more. And we have the Eight of Swords. So I think I'm picking up on that same energy, the blockage of energy. I get the feeling that someone wants access to someone else. This isn't the same energy as here. This is something else. This could be a Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra energy. It could be a male, but it could be a female. Someone wants access to another person, but I think that they keep on being told to wait. And I think that they're getting less than what they genuinely want from the situation. I have a feeling that someone's distracted, walking away, focused on different things. This person may not be aware of how to act or how to ask for what they want. If you're in a relationship with this person, and by relationship, I mean all sorts of different types of relationships, this is a person who may not be speaking up for themselves or not good at asking for what they need. In other words, the call to action here is for you to step in and to offer of yourself. So this is a message for someone saying, this person is really missing you, even though maybe you're present, maybe you're distracted, maybe you're busy somehow. But this person is really missing you, and they don't know how to access you. They don't know how to get around things. Maybe they're being polite. So you do with that information what you need to do. I think this message, in light of the channeled message before, is suggesting that there is a valid connection or there is an important link that maybe you're missing, that maybe you're focused by someone who's wasting your time and distracting you from your new beginning. And meanwhile, there's someone else completely who's there all along, who's not messing with the energy at all. They're just waiting for your attention. Let's look at more cards I colored in. So we have the Temperance. I painted over my Morgan Greer. That's how much I love you guys. Just zooming in a little bit. So we have Temperance, that's Sagittarius. And then we have the Six of Cups, Scorpio Sun. This is much more hopeful energy. It feels like it's working through it. I do get energetically the feeling that time is of the essence, so you don't want to waste too much time. And it's kind of like if you waste time, nothing may really happen except that you've wasted time on something inconsequential when there's something of value that you have all around you, a person or a situation. Then we have the moon, hidden feelings, maybe some kind of regret, nostalgia. Then we have the Three of Cups, celebration. It's all a learning process. I feel like this reading is nudging me to tell you, like, go on and like hurry up with your decision making about this relationship. Turn to that person. You may have this kind of like, sometimes we take for granted the things that are sure things in our life while we chase like ghosts or visions, right? And so this is to me really signaling that there could be something very solid in your life that maybe you're not paying attention to. And in some cases, this may be inverted, where you feel like you're the person and someone's chasing dreams. But I think that given these cards that we had before, the transformation and the generating birth, that's for everyone who's watching. It's not for the other person. So maybe you're distracted by something that ultimately will be inconsequential. And then we have the Death card. That's Scorpio energy twice. Sagittarius Scorpio energy. So that's the cusp right there in November. And then we have Jupiter and Pisces, Nine of Cups. So I think whatever is happening is about to be broken up. So if there's like a reconnection, and I'm talking about like the bad energy, that's going to come to an end and it's going to lead to a positive outcome. So if you're connecting with someone and it's full of frustration or confusion right now, you may find that that's going to break apart really quickly, and suddenly you become surrounded by the altruistic, the good energy, the one you were always supposed to be around. Here are some lemon cards, 5 cards. Again, I painted over all these. Face down, you can choose one for a special message. I hope they'll fit too. Okay, so let's see what we got. So we have a letter. Confusing communications are kind of reaching out to you. The strong message here is, unless it's very crystal clear, because Uranus and Mars at this position is all about clarity, it's not the right path for you. Okay? So if you're getting communication that's sort of distracting you and it's misdirecting your attention, that's a huge sign that is not the path. That's the distracting path. Things will be very, very clear. And on July 10th, exceptionally clear. We have the 4-leaf clover, the good luck, and then we have the mice at the center. So there is an energy like leaking water. There's like leaking water. You're losing a little bit somewhere, of something. So maybe just fix things and find where the leak is at. Then we have the birds, gossip. I sense that there's a confusing environment, and there's something coming through in all these messages about the continuum between 2026 and 2028. So to me, it seems like maybe in 2026, something won't work out the way that you thought it would or that you would like. There's already too many things going on to distract it. But the next planetary cycle is when you really double down in 2028. I just stopped being lazy and looked it up, and it's a syzygy between Mercury direct this time. That's going to be powerful because Mercury's retrograde in Cancer right now. So there's tying up loose ends. In 2028, June 23rd, okay? Write that down on your calendar. We have 11, 11, 11. Now, my girlies love that. But it's Uranus, Mercury, and Mars. And Venus is in Gemini, too. That's a beast transit. That is a beast. And the nodes are going to be not squaring it anymore. Something big. That's going to be powerful. And it's in a loose trine to Pluto at 8 degrees Aquarius. Yeah, that's a beast transit. You heard it here first, folks. June 23rd, 2028. Wow, that's a syzygy, 3-point alignment between Uranus, Mercury, and Mars. Mercury rules Gemini. powerful moment. So now I see astrologically what this is all about. Something's caught up in the past or from the past, Something's getting in the way, there's gossip, this and that. Don't worry about it. Just ignore it the best you can. It's already here, right? And just keep going with what you're doing, and you'll have a much clearer path in 2028 forward. The last card is the Well, and the Well kind of talks about deeper resources, deeper community. Maybe something needs to be talked about so that it can grow those deep roots. That transformation is coming. So this is like having to meet the darkness in order to get past it. Maybe something needs to be brought to light. Uranus and Mars conjunction could be bringing things out into the open, not in like a clarification of secrets, although Mercury retrograde in Cancer can have a very gossipy side that could reveal hidden secrets. We'll talk about Mercury retrograde in Cancer soon. I just had a series of transits. That's why I'm posting so many videos. I want to address all of them. But this Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini, which is also highly communicative, it's like a missing piece of information finally clicks in. It doesn't have to be like malicious at all. It can be like something that was missed or misheard or misunderstood, like a missing piece of the puzzle. Okay, so we have the Queen or the Princess of Pentacles, Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn, secondary transits in Earth as well. Then we have the Prince of Pentacles, Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles. Look at this. It's an Earth signed trifecta. Something's really coming through strong. Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn. He has secondary transits sometimes in Gemini, Aquarius, Libra. Her secondary transits, like minor transits, are in water sign, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. Ace of Cups, new beginning, people coming in, art and temperance, Sagittarius energy. There's people who are bringing resources, and when I see so many earth signs, it's like they have your back. Some people are coming in with like, we have your back, and leading to virtue. That's Sun in Aries. Wonderful card. Something to do with a Sagittarius. Maybe they're supporting your arts career, but bringing things forward. It's almost like a power team of support, And they don't have to be earth signs to be supportive, but you'll know exactly who it is. It's like people who don't mess around. You're moving from an energy where there's really flighty and really kind of like say this and that, say whatever, to people that are very like, they'll still have fun, but they'll be very like direct and build good communication. They don't mess around with people's feelings. And since I'm celebrating covering all my cards, not all of them, but a lot of them, the ones that I, aren't collector's items. So we have the Nine of Pentacles. That's Venus in Virgo, and the Hierophant, which is Taurus. Taurus has been coming up a lot. Maybe these are Tauruses. Wealth coming in. Ace of Wands, new beginnings. This is feeling very good. Change the page. There's such an energy here of don't waste your time, but kind of having to revisit the past on some issue. And then we have Queen of Swords. Like there's still some residual, but it's not like you're invested. It's more like you have to deal with it. Queen of Swords, Gemini, somebody clears the path for you, maybe through conversation. Then we have the World. Some of you are traveling. Some of you guys are going far. And we have the Two of Swords. This is Moon in Libra. I don't like leaving on like a liminal card. Oh, look who's on the bottom, King of Pentacles. So I know it's across different cards, but we have all the Earth Court cards present. There's a really solid team behind you. There's still some decisions that you have to make. I don't think it's a bad thing that you're making decisions. Maybe you're still haunted by the past. And that energy of deception and distraction was really intense. So whoever is doing that is doing it a lot. Let's see. So we have the Clover. I'm looking at the Two of Swords. Lucky. We had the Clover before. Letter in the same pattern, except it was letter clover. Now it's clover letter. Maybe it's a lucky letter. And then we have the Cross. The cards want to keep on being read, but I need to finish this up. And then we have the mice, and that showed up again. There's something that is attached to you that needs to be cleared. But I really strongly feel that it's persistent, but it's a non-issue. So I actually feel okay with leaving it at that. I do think that like Three of Wands and the way forward, and these are your powerhouse cards right now, the generating birth and transformation. Let's pick something else for the cross and the mice. Same deck. We have the man. So it could be concerning someone playing games and someone new coming in. Be careful of someone new just popping in like that. They may be like a double agent. And a stork, something new coming in. Be careful of games with your heart. And if you're like wanting marriage and stuff, be careful of people pushing that on you too quickly. And then we have the moon. But there could be a very powerful connection happening very quickly because of heavy attraction. The moon in the Lenormand is slightly different than in the tarot. It has to do with beauty. I'll clarify with my own deck. And we have the Knight of Cups. Offers are being made. Maybe you're supposed to go through it, but it feels like maybe somewhat unstable energy. Six of Swords, moving on. So maybe something starts off really. Maybe the cards are saying like, try it, but maybe it's unstable. And this is true for men as well. The Knight could be a woman if you're heterosexual. Then we have the Strength card. Maybe it's lusty energy. Page of Cups. I get the sense of back and forth. Attraction, Knight of Pentacles again. Wait for the solid one, the one that you feel is like really grounded in something good, okay? That's the last thing that I'll say about this. It really feels like there's some back and forth energy that's wasting your time. So you just need to, deal with it however you feel comfortable. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to work these down to shorter, but a girl's got to tell you everything she knows. So I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.